Hi everyone, Dr. Jeff here with you again this week with Megan. Last week, Bell Media had their Let's Talk Day or their Mental Health Day, and sometimes I get this question about, does chiropractic care actually help with the brain or brain activity at all? And there's lots of research going on. This kind of all started way back when a bunch of Australian athletes, Olympic athletes, were getting adjusted by a chiropractor, and they found their performance actually improved when they got adjusted by a chiropractor. Some of you remember Donovan Bailey, who was a Canadian, who was the fastest man in the world for a number of years. He had a chiropractor that traveled with him everywhere he went, and he said it helped him with his performance. So why were all these athletes using these chiropractors? And these days, pretty well 99% of your Olympic athletes are getting adjusted by a chiropractor. Well, a couple of researchers, Heidi, Haavik, and Bernadette Murphy, a couple of neurologists, were doing some studies on the brain, and they took a bunch of people that had never seen a chiropractor before. And what they do with them, the chiropractor examined them, found these areas of restriction or tenderness or fixations, as chiropractors like to call them, and they gave them a chiropractic adjustment, which is a high amplitude, low velocity thrust. It's kind of what most chiropractors do, and it's what gives you the cracking noise. They've tried other different types of techniques, but they found this high amplitude, low velocity thrust was the only thing that was actually working. What it did is it actually increased the activity in the frontal lobe, so the front part of your brain, increased your frontal lobe activity by as much as 20%. Why is this? Well, their thinking is that going through your spine, you have something called these tracts. So the corticospinal tract, the rubospinal tract, all these different tracts going down, and they're like main highways going down through your spinal cord, and they're collecting different types of information. One tract might be collecting things about where your body is in space, where my arm is, where my hand is. Other ones are doing temperature control. Am I hot? Am I cold? Am I bruised? All these different things. And what happens is all this information has to come up into the brain. It has to get collected, has to get processed, and a response has to be made. And Megan's going to talk a little more about the frontal lobe in a minute. The other thing we've talked about at times, we've talked a little bit about the tummy time and babies in tummy time, and how important it is to improve their strength in their neck and their upper back, get them to turn their heads, get them to track things with their eyes, improves their cervical lordosis and lumbar lordosis, and all these different things. The one thing they found now is that babies that don't get as much tummy time, they seem to be slow in development, so they're a little behind other babies that do get more tummy time. And these are things like getting their head up, sitting up, standing up, walking, things like this, these milestones. And they're finding this may also have to do with the frontal lobe. So what is that frontal lobe all about there, Megan?
Yeah, so the frontal lobe is the lobe we have up here at the front, and it's relatively new, and it's been found that it actually takes up to 30 years to fully develop. It is typically referred to as the executive functioning area of the brain, which takes different information from the brain and also those spinal tracts that Dr. Jeff was referring to before, and it brings it together to control things like behavior, decision-making, planning, and then some other things like memory, voluntary muscle control, and spatial awareness.
So it's very, very important. So when we're talking about an athlete, that athlete, how is it going to improve the performance? Well, one thing it does, it helps them focus. So it narrows their focus down so they can focus on the one thing. It also helps planning. So that says I'm a slalom skier, so I have to go down that hill. So one thing it does is it helps me plan. So before I even go down that hill, I've already set my plan as to how I'm going to get down that hill. It helps with my memory, so I can go through it in my mind over and over and over again, how I'm going to get down that hill. It helps me with my fears. So before I even start, it's going to help me calm my fears and get me started. Once I get going, what's it going to do? Well, it's going to help me with my balance. It's going to help me with my spatial awareness. So where's my leg? Where's my arm? How fast am I going? Am I going too fast? Am I going to fall? What can I do to prevent my fall? So as far as an athlete is concerned, it increases our perception as to what's going on and how we're going to perform our task at the best of our ability. When it comes to everyday life, what can I do to help me? Well, we talked before a little bit about balance and falling. And if I have to go from here and the bathroom's over there, here, what's it going to do? I'm going to look at it and say, well, I have to get from here to there. It's going to plan my route. I have to go around that chair. I have to go around that lamp. I have to step over that cord, whatever it is. And so it's going to plan my route for me to get there. And once I get going, it's going to help me with my balance. Where am I? Am I going to fall? If I am going to fall, can I get my arm out to stop me from falling? So if you're at a meeting, what will happen is if you have a big meeting coming up, so what it can do for you is it can help you focus on on what's going to be happening at the meeting. You can kind of pre-plan how you're going to lead that meeting, what direction it's going to go. During the meeting, you get all this information coming in at you. So it's going to help you process that information and come up with a response. It's going to help you, blurring out with an answer that you don't really understand, or it's going to help you calm your fears if you don't know the response. It's going to help you in all these different things, forming a response, a proper response for certain situations. So that frontal lobe is very important. And what we're finding now through research is that chiropractic manipulation, so that high velocity, low amplitude thrust, can actually help with that frontal lobe. And as Megan mentioned, it takes up to about 30 years for that frontal lobe to fully develop. So it's always developing, always coming up with new ideas and growing. So lots of interesting research coming out is how chiropractic care can actually help develop with that frontal lobe and help the activity in the frontal lobe and deal with these things. So pretty interesting stuff. So yes, chiropractic care can help with that frontal lobe and help athletes improve their performance and help everyday life for certain people. So if you have any questions about anything we talked about today, you can always email me at jgoldsworthy@goldswellness.com, or you can ask a question for Megan via Facebook. If you have any other questions or any interesting things you want us to talk about, we can always reach them for you and talk to you about them. I'm Dr. Jeff, and with Megan, we've got your back.